Officer Ryan had been on the job for over a decade, but he had never experienced anything like this before. He had seen his fair share of grisly crime scenes, but there was something different about the scene in front of him. The victim was a young woman, her body twisted and contorted in an unnatural position. Ryan had seen enough death to know that this wasn't the work of a human. It was as if something had possessed her and forced her body to bend in ways that should have been impossible. As Ryan and his partner, Detective Jackson, began to investigate, strange things started to happen. Doors would slam shut on their own, objects would move without explanation, and they both felt like they were being watched. Ryan tried to brush it off as his imagination, but the feeling of being watched never went away. He began to have nightmares, visions of the victim's body coming to life and attacking him. As the investigation progressed, supernatural occurrences became more frequent and intense. They heard strange whispers in their ears, saw ghostly apparitions, and felt icy cold hands on their skin. Ryan knew he had to find a way to solve the case and put an end to the supernatural terror that was haunting him. But the clues were few and far between. The victim had no enemies, no one who would want to harm her. It wasn't until Ryan stumbled upon an old diary hidden away in the victim's apartment that the pieces began to fall into place. The diary belonged to a woman who had lived in the same apartment years before. She had been tormented by a malevolent spirit that had driven her to madness. Ryan and Jackson realized that they were dealing with an entity that had been haunting the apartment for years, possessing anyone who lived there and driving them to commit heinous acts of violence. But how could they stop something that was beyond their understanding? Ryan knew that he had to confront the entity, but he didn't know how. One night, as Ryan was sitting alone in the victim's apartment, he felt a cold breeze wash over him. He turned around to see the ghostly figure of a woman standing in front of him, her eyes glowing in the darkness. Ryan knew that this was his chance. He stood up and faced the entity, his gun at the ready. He spoke to it, trying to reason with it, but it was no use. The entity was too powerful, too consumed by its rage and hatred. As the entity surged forward, Ryan fired his gun, sending a bullet straight into its heart. The entity let out a blood-curdling scream and vanished into thin air. Ryan and Jackson were hailed as heroes, but Ryan knew that the memory of that supernatural encounter would stay with him forever. He had faced his deepest fears and come out the other side, but he knew that there were things in this world that we may never fully understand.